The sound was not loud, it was not violent, it was wet. That is the only way Elias could describe it later, in the brief moments before his mind finally snapped. It was the sound of soft meat slapping against hard stone, rhythmic and persistent, echoing through the ventilation shafts of the Ritz Hotel. But let us go back to the lobby. Elias Thorne was a man of measurements, an acoustic engineer hired by high-end properties to silence the world. When a guest at the Ritz complained of a humming noise in the presidential suite, Elias was the man they called. He did not believe in ghosts. He believed in loose pipes and settling foundations. He stood at the reception desk at 2 a.m. The lobby was empty, a cavern of polished marble. The silence here was expensive. The night manager, Sterling, slid a keycard across the mahogany. He was gaunt, his skin pulling tight over his cheekbones. "Mr. Thorne," Sterling said, his voice a dry rasp. "The complaint comes from room 404. The guest checked out an hour ago. Hysterical. He claimed the walls were breathing. We need you to confirm it is merely the plumbing." Elias took the card, noticing Sterling's bruised fingernails. "I will find the source. Plumbing usually sings in B-flat. I should be done in an hour." Sterling smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Take your time. The hotel has its own anatomy. Sometimes it takes a while to find the pulse." Elias took the elevator to the 4th floor. The hallway stretched out endlessly, the carpet a deep, arterial red. He walked to room 404. The air here smelled different, faintly of copper and bleach. He pushed the door open. The room was hot, humid, like a greenhouse. Elias stood in the center of the room with his sound level meter and waited. Silence. Then, the needle jumped. Thump. It was faint, but the machine caught it. Elias moved toward the bathroom. Thump. Louder now. Coming from behind the vanity mirror, Elias placed a stethoscope against the wallpaper. He expected the hiss of water or the rattle of a fan. Instead, he heard a slide, a squelch, and then a low, guttural groan. Elias pulled back. That was vocal. That was a human sound. He checked the blueprints. There was a service chase behind the bathroom, but the sound was too close. He removed the ventilation grate near the floor. The bolts came loose easily. He shone his flashlight into the dark. The shaft was clean, polished metal, larger than it should have been. The groan came again, echoing down the tunnel. It sounded like someone in pain. "Hello?" Elias called out. He crawled inside. The metal was cold. As he shimmied forward, the air grew hotter. The smell of copper intensified, mixing with something sweet and rotten. The shaft dropped at a steep angle. Elias slid down, landing on a metal platform in a void between floors. A space not on the blueprints. A maintenance room suspended in the dark heart of the hotel. In the center, illuminated by his beam, was a machine. It looked like an iron lung, a massive cylinder of brass and glass. Piston arms hissed and pumped. Tubes ran from it into the walls, pulsing with dark fluids. Inside the glass cylinder was a man, or what was left of him. He was ancient, skin stretched over bone like parchment. He floated in yellow gel, tubes threaded into his throat and chest. Elias scrambled back. The flashlight beam settled on a brass nameplate. Founder, 1902. Status, critical. The man in the glass opened his milky blind eyes. They locked onto Elias. His mouth opened around the tube, and the groan vibrated through the glass. The machine hissed. The fluid darkened. Elias couldn't breathe. This wasn't plumbing. This was an industrial life support system hidden in the walls. He turned to leave, but a heavy door unlatched on the far side. Elias ducked behind a cluster of pipes. Sterling walked in, followed by 2 bellhops carrying heavy buckets. Sterling checked the gauge on the machine. "Pressure is low," he said, sounding bored. "He needs more biomass." The bellhops poured the buckets into a hopper. It was full of raw meat and offal. The grinder whirred. The slurry was liquefied and pumped into the tubes, feeding the man in the glass. The ancient figure convulsed. The hotel walls seemed to shudder. "The vibrations," Sterling muttered. He is agitated tonight. The guests are noticing. One bellhop spoke up, his voice trembling. Sir, how much longer? He looks ready to expire. Sterling turned on him cold. Read your contract. The deed to the Ritz belongs to the founder, not his estate. Him. As long as his heart beats, the corporation pays no inheritance tax. We have a 99-year lease that only expires upon his death. He does not die until we say he dies. But sir, is he even conscious? He feels everything, Sterling said softly. That is why the walls hum. It is him screaming. Elias tried to inch backward. His boot scraped a loose bolt. The sound was sharp. Sterling froze. He turned slowly toward the pipes. We have a pest. The bellhops moved with terrifying speed. Elias scrambled up the chute, panic seizing him. He made it 3 feet before an iron grip grabbed his ankle. He was dragged down, hitting the grate hard. Sterling stood over him, silhouetted by the machine. Mr. Thorne, I told you to take your time. Elias gasped, backing against the vibrating machine. You're monsters. You're keeping him alive for tax evasion? It is tradition, Sterling smiled. But you are right. He is getting old. The biological components are wearing out. Sterling looked at the tank, then at Elias. At his healthy lungs and young blood. Actually, Sterling said, unbuttoning his jacket. This is fortuitous. We were just discussing an upgrade. The bellhops grabbed Elias. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the machine's hum. Sterling flipped a switch. The fluid in the tank drained. The old man inside twitched one last time and went still. The heart monitor flatlined. The lease is up, Sterling said. Long live the leaseholder. They dragged Elias toward the open cylinder. The smell of formaldehyde was overwhelming. No, Elias begged. Please. We know you won't tell, Sterling said. You will be too busy keeping the Ritz standing. They shoved him inside. The glass door slammed shut. Elias pounded on the glass as thick yellow gel began to fill the cylinder. It rose past his knees, warm and smelling of lavender. He took a final breath as it covered his face. The machine pumped. A tube snaked down, seeking his throat. The last thing Elias saw was Sterling holding up the decibel meter. Perfect silence, Sterling said. Then the lights went out. And now, if you listen closely on the 4th floor, you might hear it. Not a ghost, but a wet, rhythmic thumping. It is the sound of Elias Thorne, paying the rent.